My mother said, "You don't deserve a penny. We will leave the house to your brother." I smiled. Fine, then don't count on me either. A month later I left, the nightmare began, and they remembered me. I was not particularly looking forward to this birthday. 35 is not 20, and it is not a milestone anniversary either. But still, deep down, there was a glimmer of hope for warm words, for attention from my closest loved ones, especially from my mom. The morning started as usual: coffee, a quick shower, checking work emails. In the kitchen, my mother, Laura, was already bustling about, setting the table for the evening. My brother, Alex, as always, was sleeping until noon. "Happy birthday, my dear." Laura kissed my cheek without looking up from slicing the salad. "We will celebrate in the evening." "We will celebrate," echoed in my head. Yes, we will celebrate, as usual, with my money. I had long since gotten used to the role of the breadwinner in the family. My father died a few years ago, and all the care for my mother and brother fell on my shoulders. My salary was good, I did not complain, but sometimes I just wanted to feel like a woman, not a workhorse. In the evening, we gathered at the table. Laura had cooked a lot of food. Alex finally deigned to wake up and even put on a clean shirt. There were no presents, as usual, but I was not expecting any. Well then, Laura solemnly raised a glass of juice. "To Nadia. May you have everything good. You are so smart, such a hard worker." I gave a weak smile. The usual words. I heard them every year. After the toast, Laura cleared her throat and looked at me with a strange, guilty look. "Nadia, there is something," she began hesitantly. "Alex and I wanted to tell you something." Alex sat there, smirking, and glanced at me with some sort of superiority. This made me wary. "Basically," Laura continued, "we decided. Well, we did not decide. It just happened. The house, it is now in Alex's name." I froze. It was as if something snapped in my head. The house? In Alex's name? The very house where I grew up, where I had invested so much effort and money. What? I asked quietly, not believing my ears. "Well, it just happened," Laura repeated, avoiding my gaze. "You see, Alex is having a hard time right now. He needs to get on his feet. And you earn well on your own. You will not get anything. The house will go to Alex." Her words echoed in my stunned mind. I looked at my mother, at my brother, and could not believe what was happening. How could they do this to me? Fragments of memories flashed through my mind. How I had started helping my parents with repairs right after college. How I had paid off my mother's car loan. How I had transferred money for utilities every month. How I had bought groceries, clothes, medicine. Always I had put the family's interests above my own. I remembered how a few years ago, when a pipe burst and flooded the whole house, I, sleepless for several nights, had run around the stores looking for the right materials, negotiated with plumbers, and supervised the repairs. I had missed an important project at work then, got a reprimand from my boss, but I did not regret anything. It was my home, my family. And Alex? Alex was playing computer games at the time and complaining that he had nothing to wear to the disco. Now he was sitting sprawled in his chair, smirking. He knew. He had known about the transfer of ownership in advance and had not said a word. I felt a wave of rage and resentment rising inside me. I had been betrayed. By the closest people. Betrayed on a very ordinary day, on my birthday. I silently stood up from the table. "All right," I said calmly, looking straight into my mother's eyes. "If that is the case, then do not count on me anymore either." Laura tried to say something, to justify herself, but I was not listening. I turned and walked out of the room. In the hallway, I put on my jacket and shoes. "Nadia, where are you going?" I heard my mother's voice. "To where I am valued," I replied, opening the door. I left the house, slamming the door so hard that the windows rattled. It was cold and damp outside. I walked down the sidewalk, not knowing where I was going. Only one thought pulsed in my head: how could they? Reaching the nearest bus stop, I got on the first bus that came along. I did not care where it was going. I just needed to get away from this house, from these people, from this lie and betrayal. The whole way, I looked out the window at the flickering city lights and tried to make sense of what had happened. I knew that my life had changed forever. Returning home late in the evening, the first thing I did was take out my phone and transfer all my savings to a separate account, inaccessible to my mother and brother. I knew it was cruel, but I could not do it any other way. I needed to protect myself. Then I opened my laptop and started looking for apartment rental ads. I decided I did not want to live in that house anymore, to breathe the same air as those people. I needed my own personal space where I could feel safe. After finding a few suitable options, I sent out viewing requests. Tomorrow I had to start a new life. I fell asleep with a heavy heart. Resentment and anger filled me, not letting me sleep. I tossed and turned all night, replaying the events of the past day in my head. I was hurt, offended, and scared. Scared that my closest people had turned out to be so alien and cruel. Scared that I would have to start everything from scratch. Silence. Silence fell upon me after leaving my parents' house. A deafening silence after so many years of the usual noise, arguments, requests, and reproaches. The silence of a new rented apartment, smelling of fresh paint and someone else's life. I rented a small one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city. Nothing special, but my own. No pictures on the walls, no reminders of the past. Just the bare minimum of necessary furniture and a feeling of a clean slate. I threw myself into my work. Accounting, reports, numbers. In this chaos, I found some semblance of order, some support. I stayed late, trying not to think, not to feel. Every morning, waking up in an empty apartment, I felt the sharp pain of betrayal, but I pushed it away, forcing myself to move on. I no longer transferred money to my mother, did not pay the bills for the house, did not buy groceries. Complete, absolute silence in financial matters. The first few days, I would jump at every phone call, expecting to hear my mother's voice, full of reproaches or excuses. But the phone was silent. Alex did not call either. I knew that they probably hoped I would come to my senses, that I would come crawling back, begging for forgiveness for my unheard of audacity. But I was not going to. A month passed. A month of silence, a month of independent life. I began to get used to the new routine, to lonely evenings with a book and a cup of tea, to quiet weekends when I could do whatever I wanted and not have to report to anyone. I even began to notice that I liked it. For the first time in a long time, I felt that I was living for myself. One evening, as I was finishing dinner, the phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello," I said uncertainly. "Nadia, it is Mom." A trembling voice came through the phone. "My dear, help." I went cold. I had been waiting for this call, but now that it came, I felt only irritation and fatigue. "What happened?" I asked dryly, trying to keep myself in check. Alex has gotten into trouble." My mother's voice broke. He took out a loan." I frowned. "Of course, Alex. What else?" "A loan. Why?" "He said it was for a business, that he was going to start his own company." Laura sobbed into the phone. "But he lost it all." I was silent, waiting for what would come next. I already knew what would follow. "He took out the loan against the house." "Nadia," my mother sobbed. "And now the bank is threatening to take the house. We will have nowhere to live." I closed my eyes. There it was, just as I had expected. "And what do you want me to do?" I asked indifferently. "Help us, my dear," Laura pleaded. "I am begging you, save our home." "Alex, he is so foolish. He did not know what he was doing." "No, Mom," I answered firmly. "I will not help you." "But Nadia," my mother's voice became hysterical. "We are your family. You cannot abandon us." "You abandoned me," I reminded her coldly, "when you transferred the house to Alex." "Did you think of me?" There was a silence on the phone. I knew my mother could not answer that question. I do not want to talk about it, Laura whispered. Just help us, please. We will fix everything. No, Mom, I repeated. I am not going to fix your mistakes anymore. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. But where will we go? My mother sobbed. To the street. That is not my problem, I cut her off. You made your own choice. I hung up without waiting for an answer. My hands were shaking, my chest was seething with anger and resentment. I knew I had acted cruelly, but I could not do it any other way. I would not let myself be used anymore. The whole evening I could not calm down. I paced the apartment like a caged animal, constantly going back to the phone. Part of me wanted to break down, to call my mother, to say that I would help, that everything would be all right. But another part, stronger and firmer, held me back. The next morning, I felt empty. I went to work like an automaton, trying not to think about the previous day's conversation. During my lunch break, my friend Ian, a lawyer from the bank with whom I sometimes consulted on work matters, called me. Nadia, hi, he said in a cheerful voice. How are you? Hi, Ian, I replied tiredly. I am SOSO. What happened? He asked. I hesitated, but decided to tell him about my conversation with my mother. I knew that Ian was a smart and sensible person, and I needed an outside opinion. After listening to my story, Ian was silent for a moment, then said, The situation is certainly unpleasant, but there is a way out. What is it? I asked with hope. You can buy out this debt, Ian suggested. The bank will gladly agree to it. The main thing for them is to get their money back. Buy out the debt? I repeated. But I do not have that kind of money. You had savings, Ian reminded me. Plus, you can take out a loan. In your case, the bank will approve it without any problems. I thought about it. It was a risky move, but perhaps the only way to save the house. And what then? I asked. What will happen to my mother and brother? That is for you to decide, Ian replied. You can let them live in the house, or you can evict them. It is your decision, because the house will belong to you. I was silent, mulling over his words. It was a difficult choice. On the one hand, I wanted revenge, to kick them out onto the street, to make them feel what I had felt. On the other hand, I could not imagine my mother and brother being homeless. Think carefully, Ian said. This is a serious decision. But if you decide to buy out the debt, I will help you with all the paperwork. Thanks, Ian, I replied. I will think about it. After hanging up, I stared out the window for a long time. My mind was racing. I knew this was my chance, a chance to regain control of the situation, a chance to set things right. But I also knew that this decision would forever change my relationship with my family. I had to make a choice between revenge and compassion, between justice and mercy. And this choice would determine my future life. I sat in Ian's office, looking at the aquarium with its lazily swimming fish. Their unhurried movements seemed to me the embodiment of the calmness I so lacked. The city was noisy outside the window, but here, in the sterile silence of the bank, all problems seemed distant and solvable. Ian, as always, exuded confidence and professionalism. So, Nadia, as I understand it, the situation with the house requires an immediate solution, Ian began, putting aside some papers. His tone was even and businesslike, as always. I nodded. My mom called in a panic. Alex managed to mortgage the house and lost all the money. The bank is threatening to evict them. My voice sounded tired. I felt wrung out like a lemon. Ian was silent for a moment, considering the situation. There are a few options. The easiest one is to let the bank take the house. But from what you have told me, that is not what you want, even despite the resentment. I sighed. You are right. I do not want them to be on the street. But I am not going to just save them either. Then there is another option. Ian leaned forward slightly. You can buy out the debt from the bank. In effect, you will become the creditor. And then you can do as you see fit. I frowned. What do you mean, as I see fit? It means you can re-register the house in your name. You will pay off Alex's debt, but in return, You will demand that the house be transferred to your name, legally and officially. I thought about it. The option was tempting. On the one hand, I was saving my family from an imminent catastrophe. On the other, I was gaining control of the situation, the control I had so lacked all these years. Ian, this sounds too good to be true, I said, looking at him incredulously. This is a legal way to solve the problem. The bank is interested in getting its money back, not in litigation. Your family is interested in not being on the street. You are interested in justice being served. Everyone wins. And Alex? I asked. Will he agree to this? Ian shrugged. He has no choice. Either he agrees or he is left homeless. You can present it as a gesture of goodwill on your part. A rescue, so to speak. I imagined Alex's face when he found out the house now belonged to me. I could not help but smile. It would be fair, after everything I had done for them. All right, I said firmly, looking Ian in the eye. I agree. What do I need to do? Ian smiled. Excellent. I will prepare all the necessary documents. You will need to talk to your mother and brother, explain the situation to them, and convince them to sign all the papers. This is the most difficult stage. Ian was right. Convincing my mother and brother turned out to be incredibly difficult. As soon as Laura heard my proposal, she burst into tears and lamentations. Nadia, my dear, how could you? Do you really want to take the last thing we have? Do you not understand that this is our home, our history? I listened to her silently, my arms crossed over my chest. I no longer believed her tears and lamentations. I knew it was all just manipulation. Mom, you signed the documents yourself when you transferred the house to Alex. You decided that I would get nothing. Now you have to pay for your decisions, I replied calmly. But, Nadia, Alex is your brother. You cannot just leave him on the street. I am not leaving him. I am offering you a way out. I am paying off Alex's debt, but in return, the house becomes my property. You can continue to live in it. But you have to understand that this is now my house, and I will be setting the rules. Laura fell silent, considering my words. She knew they had no choice. If I did not help, they would be on the street. And Alex, she asked hopefully, looking at me. Will he agree? He has no choice, I repeated Ian's words. Either he agrees or he is left homeless. When Alex found out about my proposal, he flew into a rage. Alex was raging. The room shook from his shouts, as if from a small earthquake. You have no right. This is my house, he yelled, pointing a finger at me, who stood calmly in the doorway, my arms crossed over my chest. Rage contorted his face, making him look like a capricious child deprived of his favorite toy. Laura sat on the sofa, her head bowed, like a scolded schoolgirl. Her shoulders trembled, but it was unclear whether she was crying or just shaking with fear. Your house, Alex? Let's be honest. This house was never yours. You did not lift a finger to maintain it. All these years, who paid the bills? Who did the repairs? Who bought the food? You lived here like a parasite. And now, when you have almost lost everything because of your stupidity, you still dare to shout. I spoke quietly, but there was steel in my voice. Alex tried to approach me, but I took a step back. Do not come near me. I do not want to touch you. Laura raised her head. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of hope and despair. Nadia, my dear, do not kick us out onto the street. Where will we go? Forgive Alex. He made a mistake. He will change, I promise. I looked at my mother. I saw in her eyes not only fear, but also realization. The realization that she herself, with her blind love for her son, had brought the situation to this point. Mom, I am not going to kick you out. At least, not for now. But things will be different. No more loans, no more gambling. You and Alex will live here, but by my rules. Alex tried to object, but I cut him off with a gesture. Be quiet. You have no right to speak at all. You have proven that you cannot be trusted with a single penny. You will do what I say. And if you do not like something, you can leave. But remember, you have nowhere to go. I took a piece of paper from my bag and placed it on the table. These are the conditions. Read them carefully. If you agree, sign. If not, pack your things. Silence fell in the room. Laura took the piece of paper and began to read. Alex stood there, frowning as if not understanding what was happening. The conditions were simple and strict. Paying a portion of the utility bills equally with me. Order in the house. No scattered things, no dirt. Help with the housework. Laura would cook and clean. Alex would do the heavy work around the house and yard. And most importantly, no alcohol and no gambling. Any violation would result in immediate eviction. This is robbery. Alex roared after reading the conditions. You want to turn us into slaves? No, Alex, I want you to become responsible people, I replied. I want you to learn to appreciate what you have. I want you to stop being a child and start thinking about the future. And if you think this is slavery, then you just do not understand what real life is. Laura silently signed the conditions. She knew they had no choice. She knew I was right. She saw her son sliding into an abyss and knew that only I could stop him. Alex hesitated for a long time, but eventually signed as well. He knew I was not joking. He saw a determination in my eyes that he had never noticed before. He knew that if he did not agree, he would be on the street. I took the signed documents. Good. Now you know the rules. And remember, I will not forget what you did. But I am giving you a chance. A chance to make amends, a chance to prove that you can be better. Leaving the house, I took a deep breath. The air seemed clean and fresh. I looked at the house. It was no longer a symbol of betrayal and pain. Now it was my house, my fortress, my chance to build a new life. I got in the car and drove to my apartment. There, silence and peace awaited me. There, I could be myself. There I could think about the future. In the evening, Ian called me. How did it go? He asked. It was tough, but fair, I replied. I knew you could handle it, Ian said. You are a strong woman, Nadia, and you deserve to be happy. Thanks, Ian, I replied. You helped me a lot. I will always be there if you need my help, Ian said. And remember, you are not alone. You have friends, you have a job, you have a future. I smiled. I knew Ian was right. I was not alone, and the future no longer scared me. Yes, I had to go through pain and betrayal, but I had become stronger. I had learned to protect myself and to value myself. I gave my family a chance to atone for their guilt, a chance to become better. And I hoped they would take it. But if not, I would be ready to let them go. Because now I knew that my happiness depended only on me. In the first week after the new rules were established, I came to the house with some apprehension. I did not know what to expect. Would I see remorse and change, or would I face the same old selfishness and malice? When I entered the house, I was greeted by an uncharacteristic silence. The house was clean and tidy, which was a pleasant surprise. Laura was bustling in the kitchen, making dinner. Alex was sitting at the table, pretending to read a book. Hi, Nadia, Laura said, trying to speak in an even voice. How are you? I am fine, Mom, I replied. How are you? We are trying, Laura replied. Alex is helping around the house. I looked at Alex. He avoided my gaze. Is that true, Alex? I asked. Alex mumbled something unintelligible in response. Show me what you have done, I said. Alex reluctantly got up and led me to the yard. There he showed me the firewood he had chopped and the flower beds he had weeded. I was pleasantly surprised. I saw that Alex was really trying, but I also knew that this was just the beginning. Good, Alex, I said. Keep it up. And remember, this is not just for me, it is for you. I went back into the house and sat down at the table with Laura. Mom, I want you to know that I am not doing this out of anger, I said. I am doing this because I love you. And I want you to be happy. Laura started to cry. I know, my dear, she said. I know we did wrong. And I am very sorry. I hugged my mother. It will be all right, Mom, I said. We will get through this together. At that moment, I felt the ice between us begin to melt. I knew that my family deserved a second chance, and I was ready to give it to them. But I also knew that it would be a long and difficult road. But I was ready for it. Because now I knew that I had strength, I had willpower, and I had hope. And that was all I needed.